All right, guys, so a couple days ago, I uploaded a video with some of my thoughts about the whole all-in protocol by Dr. Nicola Rinaldi. The point of that video was to start up a conversation in regards to all in and how people feel about it and people's experiences with it, because I get very mixed results with my clients. Some of my clients come from like an all in background and is like, this is amazing, this is great, and now I'm just like working on this and this. Some people come to me because they're like, I tried the all-in thing and oh my gosh, it sort of messed up everything and I'm even more lost and even more confused and I have no idea what I'm doing with my recovery. So the idea of that video was to just showcase some of the main points or some of the main pros and some of what I perceive to be some of the cons to sort of the all-in approach. And I am glad that I did it. I look back at the video, I'm like, oh, there's so much more I could have said. There's so much more I didn't say. I think some of you guys thought that I was completely against the all-in journey, and I'm definitely not. I personally did the all-in journey. So I wanted to create a video today going through all of the comments, because there's a lot of great comments in the comment section, and I know not everyone takes the time to go out and read them, but I think it'd be cool for me to read them and respond to them on the video. That way you guys can sort of get more information about this, hear other people's point of views, and all that good stuff. So that, again, so that you can choose what's right for you, because, and I'm going to say it a million times this video, there is no one right way to recover. It all is about what's going to work for you. So I'm not saying that all-in is good. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm saying that it is individual, because you are a bright, shiny unicorn and we're all different. But let's go ahead. So I have right here, maybe I'll try and move my camera this way. Let's see. So I have right here my computer, and this is my all-in pros and cons video, and I'm looking at the comment section. All right, let's start off. So the first person said, honestly, let's just eat. Let's celebrate eating. I think it's a win for everyone. And I loved this comment, and I think that that was just like great way to start off the comment section. Yes, guys, in the end of the day, let's just eat. Let's just be happy, healthy individuals who aren't obsessed about food and who are just living their lives. Let's stop moralizing food. Let's stop overanalyzing it. Let's just put food in our mouth and move on. And I agree. I think that that's so important, and a lot of us, we get stuck because we are overanalyzing everything and we're trying to make our diet perfect and our recovery perfect and all of that. So thank you. This was Zoe. She said, let's just eat and celebrate eating. It is a celebration, guys. Like, we couldn't be here if it wasn't for food. We exist because we eat food, and that sustains our body so that we can continue to live. So it should be a celebration every single time that we eat. It's us saying, yes, I want to be here. This is great. So I just really liked that. So Mental Wise said, I totally agree. What's more, some people like me never experience extreme hunger. I'm rarely hungry at all due to my autism. So giving into hunger and cravings and eat how much you want and whatever you like is impossible. Plus, it is documented that those who go all in don't care about nutritious foods tend to overshoot a lot. Do you know Dr. Gudiani? Yes, I do know Dr. Gudiani. She talks about patients who need treatment in her clinic after going all-in / mini-mod because of severe health issues and are switch of their eating disorder to real binge eating. Professionals don't recommend these approaches. Maybe consider an interview with Dr. G. She's amazing. Yes, I will 100% consider an interview with her if she will want to be on my podcast. But I really liked this. I really liked this comment because this is what I was getting at with my cons list, is that the all-in approach, while it has its many benefits, it's very simplistic and it doesn't really dive into what type of foods are going to be very nutritious for the body. It dives into the very important aspect of you just need more foods and you need more calories, and I tell my clients this all of the time. Any food, fried chicken on waffles with fried ice cream is better than no food. Hands down, every single time. Caloric deficit, energy debt is going to be way worse than any like nutrition thing going on in a food that you eat, okay? So that's really important to understand. But at the same time, and this is why it is one of my cons, is because I kept on receiving clients that come to me and it's like they go all in and then now they're suffering with really heavy bad periods, irregular cycles, they're suffering with a lot of digestive issues. So their digestive issues somewhat cleared up going through all in for a time once they got out of that energy debt, but then now they're like running into a lot of other issues. I did have one client who developed endometriosis after going all in. So I understand that like in orthorexia recovery, it's so important to start unlearning everything you have about nutrition and to start really tuning into your body and what it needs. But I don't think it's wise to completely get rid of this idea of nutrition. Nutrition is important, guys. It's not as important as like the eating disorder has made it out to be, i.e. you're not going to die for eating a chocolate croissant. Your body does not work that way. But if we zoom out, sort of big picture, what you're eating, what is the gist of your diet, like that does influence your hormones, your digestion, influences your sleep, it influences your blood sugar, it influences so many things. So we can't just throw everything out. Rather, I like to educate my clients on throwing away all the trendy, dogmatic, you know what out there, and I'm trying to be good, guys, because all my videos get unmonetized because there's like one swear word. So you know what I wanted to use there. There's a lot of BS out there, and so I help them understand that filling up your plate with just a big bowl of vegetables is not healthy. And that is something that I wanted to mention because that was brought up a little bit like, well, if you focus on clean eating, doing all in journey, that's not going to get you anywhere. You're just going to be stuck in quasi recovery. And I'm like, oh, 100% totally understand that. What I'm saying when I say like nutrient dense, wholesome food or healthy food, I'm talking about like organic, full-fat dairy products, lots of butter, lots of ghee. I'm talking about cooking your food in lard and in duck fat and tallow. I'm talking about eating red meat and fish and eggs and not just the egg whites. Like that was my idea of like focusing on wholesome nutrition, was like I'm making huge big lamb stews with roasted potatoes and I'm not making smoothies with almond milk. Rather, I'm making a really yummy, warm, delicious like raw milk drink with honey and ghee and spices and all of that. So that was my like idea of I'm focusing on wholesome food. So I really like this comment because it just is showcasing that like, yeah, we're going to be running into some issues if we're eating donuts for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which is what I tend to see in a lot of the all-in journey things online. A lot of people are just like eating a lot of just more processed and junk food. And it's not that that's bad, but it's that that's all they're eating. So it's not like they had a beautiful, you know, organic pork chop with roasted russet potatoes and organic butter and stuff like that, and then they had some Cheerios. It's like they're having Cheerios and donuts and processed food over and over and over again. And that's just, it's gonna lead to imbalances. So let's see. This one, Dorothy says, all-in worked for me, but it was short-lived. I did eliminate my behaviors like restriction and binging and purging. I did it for about 6 months, but the weight gain really started to get to me, and I went back on a diet. Then the bulimic behaviors returned, so I am trying again at recovery using a loosely structured meal plan. I think it can be really helpful for some and not so great for others. So yeah, something that I tend to see is that those who do the all-in while not focusing on really enhancing their nutrition, is that they do tend to overshoot a lot more. And listen, overshoot is important, and we need to overshoot, and we need to, for a lot of us, we need to gain a lot of weight. I personally gained a lot of weight, and I shot about like 15 pounds. So like that was so healing and so necessary, and I'm not saying that is bad in any way, but I do see people overshooting a lot, like a lot. And now having worked with a lot of people, I just don't see that being as necessary for most people. Most people can just focus on, I'm going to be consistently eating my meals. I'm going to be eating a good amount every day, like, 3,000, 3,500, maybe even 4,000 calories, like eating a good amount. I'm going to be focusing on nutrient-dense foods. And when they focus on the nutrient-dense foods, their body is better able to regulate their metabolism quicker, and sort of get things normalized and then bounce back down to sort of a more stable, maintainable weight for them. So I see a lot of people get to this overshoot weight, and because they haven't learned how to properly take care of their body, or to really they don't understand nutrition and how their body works, then they sort of freak out and they go back to the eating sort of behaviors, because they're like, well, I hate this body and I want to get out of it. And it's like, oh, instead of understanding that's like, okay, great, you just built up your body stores. Now let's work on really enhancing our metabolic health by eating very pro-metabolic foods that are supporting the structural foundation of our body. They're supporting our thyroid. Let's focus on those foods so that your body can come back to a state of balance, because in the end of the day, that's what we want, right? Yeah, so I hope that makes sense, what I was just trying to say. 11 by 5 says, I like that it gives you permission not to ignore your hunger and eat more than some meal plan dictates. And I can see the merits of all the aspects you mentioned too. What I find hard though is that a lot of the time it's held up as the only way to recover. I just can't right now. I can't do it that way, which has made me feel really hopeless and like giving up, because when I see people succeeding with it and saying it's the only true way, I feel really discouraged in what to do. Plus, as you said, it treats it like a purely physical, neurological issue, which it can be for some people, sure, and it's great if this is enough. And I know the approach has to include neural rewiring and all that to succeed. But if your ED is a way of dealing with some psychological stuff too, just fixing your body in relationship with food isn't always enough. I know from the past that when I've tried that, I just replaced my ED with other toxic behaviors. So when I hear people say how all that goes away when you just gain weight, again, it has felt really confusing and like there's something wrong with me or I'm not trying hard enough. The other thing that I would have difficulty with if I wanted to use that method is that I have some other health problems, which means that I do have to do certain exercises to prevent me getting a lot of pain and other problems, and I have a lot of dietary restrictions that are not ED related, and I have no idea how to navigate those without some kind of help and structure. If I just listen to my cravings, I get really sick really fast. So if I even want to, I really have no clue how to do it in that way at this point. There's a lot of stuff in this one, guys. I really liked what they're saying when they said it sometimes feels like people are saying like this is the only way to recover. It's a way to recover, guys. It's one protocol, and no, you don't have to go all in to fully recover from an eating disorder. And so I'm sorry that she's feeling discouraged, that she thinks that this is the only way, when it doesn't work for everyone. You might be someone who needs more of a structured plan, who needs to focus on, it sounds like, building up your digestive system. You need to focus on eating foods that are going to be really nourishing to your body, that are going to be helping maybe seal the gut lining if you're dealing with a lot of allergies or histamine issues or whatever it may be. Like, you may have to focus on that so that you can then find this place of balance. Yeah, it's not purely just this like eat more and then you're recovered. Like, yes, that is so unbelievably helpful, and I do have to say that like 90% of things, all the mental issues like the food comparison or the food hoarding or things like that, will go away once you're just nutritionally rehabilitated, or they will greatly diminish once you're nutritionally rehabilitated. But that doesn't mean that we need not focus on all these like mental and other sort of psychological things here. So that's why I said in my video, one of the cons was that it's sort of just a like, yeah, it's a food first approach. Like, we're just getting the body healed, which is so great and amazing. But I know for me, like, I was a perfectionist. I had to work on letting go of my need for everything to be perfect. That was huge for me. I had to really do a lot of work with connecting with my femininity and being okay with having a period and a menstrual cycle and what that meant and all of that. Like, that was definitely a sticky point that I needed to work on. And so even though the all-in helps my body physically restore, there was a lot of like mental, spiritual, soulful work being done, helping me like redefine my self-worth and my identity, because it was always I had such a like athletic body identity or a healthy eater identity. And so a lot of the work involved things that weren't as physical. And again, that's just one of the cons of the all-in, is that it just focuses on that really, and it's not focusing on like all the craziness that's going up here in our head. And so for a lot of people, that's not going to work. Okay, Ivana says, it's really interesting to hear your opinion on this, and while I do agree with most of your points and that quality of nutrition matters, I feel like going through a phase or phases of eating lots and lots of processed food and chocolate, chips, etc. will be important for many people. It's so much easier to end up in quasi-recovery state of still having fair foods and subconsciously sticking right back to clean eating than to end up fully recovered. It's like you sometimes have to go from one pole to the other in order to find balance in between. Otherwise, this forced balance right from the start may turn out to be superficial. I agree here. I do. There are definitely certain aspects that I agree with here. Sometimes we do need to really swing to the other side so that we can come back to this place of balance. What I don't see in like the all-in journey is that next step, right? Of like, now how do you find balance? Now, how do we actually take care of our body properly with good nutrition and proper exercise and really taking care of our metabolic health and our digestive health and our hormonal health? Like, it doesn't really go past that. So like I said in the video, like I had my fair share of Oreos. I went out and I had fried ice cream. I had fried chicken. I had like all these things that are more processed fast food type of stuff. I did go and eat at McDonald's. That was my first time eating at McDonald's my whole life. And so I went and I had a Big Mac and I had fries. Like, I really pushed myself to go outside of my comfort zone and to really learn to trust my body in being able to eat and digest anything. And that was literally, I think that experience was irreplaceable. Really getting rid of my strict list of good and bad foods and being open to all foods was huge. And that is something I am so absolutely thankful that the all-in journey process gave me. But like I mentioned, like I did also, I had a Big Mac with, fries one day, but then I also did go and make like homemade sourdough bread and eat it with bone marrow. And I was drinking raw milk, and I was like eating just very organic, grass-fed products and foods and homemade good cooking and all of that stuff. So I balanced that out, but I hear her point that sometimes we need to just eat the dang chocolate and realize that you're not gonna die, and it's not this like evil thing that we've made it out to be. Like, your body is strong, it will digest it, it's okay. Trust your body and stop being so fixated, and stop thinking also that like health is just about food. It's not. While nutrition and food is a huge part of health, there's so many other social determinants of health that will dictate your well-being. There's, the amount of autonomy that you feel at work. There's your access to health care. There's the air quality in where you live. There's, past traumas that you've had in your life that will dictate your current well-being. Like, there's so many other things going on than just what's on your plate in terms of making you a healthy human being, and I think that that's really important to understand. So yes, agree that definitely, and I think I mentioned this before, no food is worse than any food. Like, let's just eat some food. But I can't say that nutrition doesn't completely matter, and I can't say that eating only processed foods and chocolate and chips all day long is not going to lead to negative consequences. I can't say that. I've seen too much to say otherwise. But yeah. So Anna says, I like the principle, but I think it may be a barrier for some who think if they can't go all in, there's no point in even trying. I've continued to exercise because I can't tolerate not doing it, but I just ate even more food and I have gained weight and now am a healthy BMI for the first time in 12 years. Yeah, so I think that, completely eliminating exercise can be really good mentally, but some people, they don't necessarily need it, and that's going to be really dictated on how much of an exercise addiction did you have, how much have you learned to detach from that now, are you allowing yourself rest days, have you lowered your intensity. You know, I think you can obviously get your period back if you just really focus on eating more and lowering the intensity and the amount that you exercise. Sure, yeah, okay, you can get your period back that way. So if that works for you, then that works for you. And again, I think a lot of people are just, they're saying in these comments of like, I get discouraged because I can't just completely eat 10,000 calories a day and not exercise, and then I feel like I'm bad and I can't do recovery good enough, and I don't want you guys to feel like that at all. So yeah, I'm glad that she's finding health, even though she didn't do a typical sort of all-in protocol. I would hope, though, that she has developed a different relationship with exercise and that she's really worked on that and that she exercises in a healthier way. Remember, exercise is not bad in and of itself. It's how we've exercised, and it's exercising while not eating enough that's really detrimental to the body. So Laura says, I've been doing the all-in protocol for the past 6 months, and it has been crucial to reestablish a good relationship with food that I lost due to exercise obsession and following too many Fitspo accounts. I was agreeing on most of the video until minute 15 or so. I wonder what I said at minute 15. I strongly believe, and it was my experience, that one needs to let go of all food rules and literally eat whatever one feels like. Donuts, fast food, chocolate shakes, etc. Focusing on wholesome foods, even when amazing, will slow down the process. Again, this is my opinion. Once you really totally feel free around food, you will crave the healthier options. But it is crucial to give full permission to eat whatever and whenever you want/like. I agree with you that it is hard to see the weight go up. Trust me, I've been there. And not everyone will have the mental space to be able to do it, but holding back on what you allow to eat only makes the process slower. Thank you for sharing your take on this method. Yeah, so I think I didn't express myself well enough in my first video, which is why I wanted to do this, because a lot of these I'm like, yeah, I totally agree. And like we talked about before, sometimes you gotta swing to the other side a little bit, but again, having that intention of like, but I will find balance, and your body naturally, you know, does find balance after, you know, we finally allow ourselves to have a donut. We might eat, you know, 10 donuts in a week, and like we're so excited about donuts, but then after a while your body balances out, and now, you know, donuts aren't a big thing. So I completely understand that, and that is a part of the healing process, 100% for sure. Holding back on what you allow yourself to eat will only make the process go slower. Yeah, for sure. And that's why I don't think that that would ever be a good thing. So I agree with that, and I would never tell someone to not eat something. Never, guys. Like, I personally, for myself, have zero food restrictions. You could sit down in front of me, anything. I'm talking about anything, and I will eat it with no guilt, no shame, no thoughts, really. But in my life, I do have, like, just grander dietary principles that I do sort of abide by, and I make sure, you know, coming from a vegan background, my dietary principle is I need to be eating good quality animal products. I need to be eating lots of butter and cheese and eggs and stuff like that. Like, those are the dietary principles that I've focused on. But just because I've created good dietary principles doesn't mean that I've created dietary no-nos. That doesn't exist in my life, and I don't think that that really should exist in most people's lives, especially coming from a disordered eating background. Again, coming to that place where you can accept any and all food is ridiculously important, and that is why I do like the all-in journey, and that was one of my biggest pros, is that it sort of gets you to just eat. Just eat, guys, because that's really important. So Sarah Bartlett said, I don't think all-in is for everyone. It wasn't for me. Problem is, people look at Stephanie Buttermore's journey, which seemed to take a year approximately, and they think they will end up her size. She continued to weight train during her journey too. It may not be a good idea for people who binge eat anyway, as it could just turn into one long binge or binge restrict cycle. Also, I heard someone mention that eating purely processed, high-fat, high-sugar food does nothing to help restore satiation and just increases hunger. However, I also don't believe in dietitian meal plans. I had extreme hunger, and there was no way I could have followed a meal plan, which would not have been nearly enough food for me. I think there is a middle ground here. Exactly. I think there's a middle ground here. I think there's this thing called balance, and I think that that's sort of the best approach here. Yeah. Here's my thing with like the, okay, I'm just gonna do all in eating a diet that's primarily based on more, let's say, processed foods. you have just gone through potentially years of restricting your body from nutrition. So your B12 stores, your choline stores, your cholesterol stores, your vitamin A, your vitamin K, your potassium, like all of that is severely depleted. So to then go and just merely focus on calories as being the most important thing and not focusing on nutrition, it's like, yes, this is great and that will get you out of energy debt, which is super important. But you got to replete these stores of like vitamin B12 and vitamin B6 and folate and iron and all of that stuff. Like those things were depleted. Let's build them back up. And I don't see processed foods as being those foods that help you build back up your nutritional stores, which will lead to a happy, healthy, balanced body with balanced hormones and good digestion and all of that. So that's where I sort of, my biggest con again was not putting an emphasis on the quality of foods at all and just really focusing on the calories, which is an aspect of it. But if we can find this middle ground where we can focus on, I need to up my calories and I need to also nutritionally rehabilitate my body, meaning, okay, let me go out there, let me have sardines, let's have pickled herring, let's have lots of butter, let's have coconut oil, let's have potatoes, let's have all that stuff, right? Like if we can focus on also adding and incorporating in these nutritionally dense foods, then we got like a great thing going there, right? So yes, I definitely see how there's a lot of issues when we just go and only eat processed foods, and that can end up sort of leading to other things down the road. Yeah, so I really I understand what she's saying here, and then she also mentioned that I don't think that I could have recovered on a dietitian's meal plans, and yeah, meal plans block a lot of people in recovery. It can be great for some. Again, there's no one right way. It can be great for some. It gives them that more structure. It makes sure that they are eating enough. But for some people, yeah, there's going to be a hindrance. All of a sudden, now they're so fixated on perfectly getting their meal plan right, and they have no flexibility with food because they think that they have to eat this one way. And I know for me personally, that would have been a huge just no. For me, recovery was all about learning to just eat with other people and traveling and trying new restaurants and just letting go and enjoying food. Back to the first comment, I really like that. Let's just celebrate eating. Let's just stop overthinking all of this. So yeah, I really appreciate all of your guys' comments here. I hope that this video was helpful and shared a little bit more of my thoughts on it all, and I really I appreciate the time that people spent to write. I think that this is what helps us all learn. This is what helps other girls look at this and be like, okay, here are some of the pros and cons to this that I can look at, and so that I can look at and better decide if this is going to be something that I want to do. I think one of the biggest takeaways that I want you guys to leave with here is that you are not a failure if all-in doesn't work for you. I've actually had a couple clients come to me and they felt that way. Why can't I get this all-in thing to just work? Instead, they're like, I feel way more crazy and anxious. And I do have to say, there is a healing journey there with being able to release into that chaos, release into that letting go of control and all of that. But again, not everyone's at that point. When I went all in, I was at that point. I was ready to finally let go. And while it was chaos and it was oh my gosh, and now I'm eating all this food and blah, 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 blah. And it was just, there was so much going on. I was able to breathe in it because I had developed tools through my other recovery processes. I developed tools to allow me to better handle that situation. So yeah, I hope that that was helpful. Let me know your thoughts in this video, and I would love to continue on this conversation. Ending the video though, one more note because I didn't mention it at all. I am absolutely so unbelievably appreciative to Dr. Nicola Rinaldi and to her work, and I think it is amazing, and I highly, highly, highly recommend her book, even if you don't technically go all in. The research there, the amount of evidence that she gives is outstanding and can really help put the pieces together and really help you see, like, okay, my body's not working because I'm not eating enough and I'm exercising too much. And if I start eating enough and if I stop exercising my brains out, then my period will come back and it'll normalize. And I really, her work was just immensely helpful in my own journey. And I highly recommend getting on her free Facebook group, highly recommend reading her book. Like, I recommend it. Like, I think there's so much to learn from there, and there's so much great research. And so it's like, thank you, Dr. Nicola Rinaldi, for doing that work. Unbelievably helpful. Now, you do the all-in journey how you would like. You make it work for you. And I think that this is just the point of these conversations here. So again, hope that was helpful. Please like this video, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next one.